Boy, I cannot hear anything, but we are going to talk about three stocks in the Nasdaq 100 today. All three report earnings this week. Alphabet, which has a pretty good looking chart, as well as Align Technologies and Qualcomm. I have no audio at all. I can't hear Alyssa. We have to stop. I can't hear anything.
Check. How about
Okay.
now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
How bizarre. Sometimes we have these technical issues here. Ken, thanks for bearing with me. Audience as well. Even when we do a pre-show check, sometimes things go wrong in that 30 seconds. But anyway, without further ado, let's take a look at the major indexes here, Ken. The Nasdaq had a very strong day to the upside, up about 2.6%. We also had the Dow up about 0.8%, lagging a little bit. The S&P 500 up 1.6%. The Russell also having a strong day, up about 2.5%. So just when we thought that we were starting to get more and more red flags piling up in the market, we kind of snap back here.
Yeah, well, we had two very, very heavy volume declines in the Nasdaq last week on Wednesday and Friday as well. So that prompted us just to lower our market outlook down just a notch to uptrend under pressure. But for sure, the stock market bulls are encouraged to see a nice day of outperformance for the Nasdaq. Nasdaq Composite and Nasdaq 100 performed about the same. At last check, up about 2.5%, and saw some pretty compelling action in individual growth stocks today too.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at three stocks in the Nasdaq 100 looking pretty good ahead of their earnings this week, starting off with Google gaining about 3.6% today. Again, we have earnings tomorrow, and this is a stock that saw strong gains relatively recently, and with the market coming under pressure, was still able to hold around some key support before blasting higher today ahead of the earnings report.
Yeah, held right around the 1800 level last week, despite a rough week for the stock market last week. And you see that recent high of 1843.83. Google is still in that 5% buy zone. So we're going to hear from Google Tuesday after the close, along with fellow FANG stock Amazon.com. News today on Google: it signed a 6-year agreement with Ford. They're going to be Ford's preferred cloud provider. So that's a pretty big deal. That's kind of a big win over Microsoft. So that was the news that moved Google stock, and I think anticipation around their Q4 earnings report tomorrow. So typically when the market is in really rough shape and the likelihood is growing for a pullback, you see a lot of kind of beaten up stock charts that are marred by institutional selling, and there was a little bit of institutional selling last week in Alphabet, but again, it held above that 1800 level, and nice recovery today. So relative strength line looks good. Still a pretty healthy looking chart.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that report shapes up after the close tomorrow. And with that, so tomorrow during the regular session, if the stock is holding around where it traded today, in theory, it will be in a buy zone. But can you quickly just talk to us, to investors, about the danger of buying a stock outright just before that quarterly report rolls in?
Well, listen, recent examples. We've seen some very, very good earnings reports this season. Look what happened to Apple last week. Maybe one of its best reports yet as a publicly traded company. And sellers came into the stock and sold the news. 3 straight declines. Apple rallied back a little bit, and then even Apple supplier Skyworks, which actually gapped up on Friday on good news, and then gave back a lot of those gains. And look at what the stock did today. Rallied back powerfully. So So, when you're in a market that is showing some mild signs of distribution, sometimes the market does not respond positively to good news. That was also the case with NIO today, the electric car maker, which had great January deliveries, 350% year-over-year growth, and the stock closed lower. So, I think we'll see a good report from Amazon. The question is the market going to continue this trend of selling the news? It's still, even with today's gains, it's still a bit of a challenging environment.
That's right. Whether it's Amazon or Google or any of these other stocks, just because they're technically a proper buy, we like to have a cushion on, a profit cushion heading into those results. Or maybe you're looking at the option. And Ken, you are one who knows probably more about that than anyone at IBD, with your weekly earnings preview column pointing out the good option plays out there. Let's take a look at Align Technology now, though. ALGN has earnings in 2 days' time, had a nice gain today, rebounding off of that 50-day line.
Yeah, so the last time you can see Align Technology gapped up in October, that was a very, very powerful breakout, and that was the last time they reported earnings. You can see the big turnaround that they reported in the third quarter, with earnings up 52%, sales growth up 21%. So wouldn't be surprised to see another strong quarter here. Another high-priced stock like Alphabet, but just a classic test of the 50-day moving average. I particularly liked its price action on Friday. Look at that little small blip red day on Friday, where it just really traded in a tight range, really didn't move too much, just stayed right at the 50-day line, and then a nice rally today with that big Nasdaq rally. So we'll see what the results from Align look like. But I'll tell you, going through the Nasdaq 100, there were just a lot of really nice gainers, and frankly, some decent looking charts as well.
Well, that is good to note, Ken. And last on our list is Qualcomm, QCOM, also rebounding after a test at its 50-day line, gaining about 3.4% today. And this is another one that had a nice gap up right around its last quarterly report. So it has its last two reports, actually. So it has this history of a good reaction to the quarterly numbers. Of course, we can't predict what's going to happen this time around, but that's definitely very interesting to see that kind of power on those results in recent quarters.
Yeah, absolutely. And that recent high of 161.07, that was the buy point of a little flat base here. So it closed just above that buy point today. Good support at the 50-day moving average last week. This is another big time Apple supplier, just like Skyworks. Qualcomm reports Wednesday after the close as well, along with another chip supplier, Qorvo, ticker QRVO. So it's going to be a nice week of earnings reports, and hopefully a stream of bullish reports will help lift the market out of its doldrums that we saw last week.
Yeah, speaking of market doldrums, I think that's a big question here, and it sounds like a lot of these earnings reports have the potential power to be that catalyst for the market to help us continue on the next leg higher, or maybe the opposite could happen. But we are keeping tabs on overall market conditions, and one way to do that, in addition to looking at things like QQQ, the Nasdaq 100, and the major indexes, is to look at the health of growth stocks underneath the surface.
Well, there's no question about it. We had Mark Minervini, one of the just a great growth investor. He was on IBD Live talking about that very topic. So he actually says he really doesn't look that much at the indexes themselves. He uses the action in growth stocks as his barometer. So he's gotten a little defensive in the market, like a lot of us here, frankly, and people that follow the market closely. But I'll tell you, looking at the chart of the QQQ here, again, you see, two very heavy volume declines last week, a decisive break of the 21-day moving average on Friday in heavy volume. Those were a couple of warning shots, and we had a lower volume rally today. So, again, saw a lot of good action in the Nasdaq 100 today. The market uptrend is still under pressure, still seeing some yellow flags out there that are worth worth paying attention to. But good solid rally today for sure.
That's right, and it's still early in the week, so we got to see how the rest of the week plays out, and all of the different earnings reports, how they factor into that will be interesting to see for sure. Thank you so much, Ken, for your analysis and your patience as we sorted out a little bit of an audio issue towards the beginning of the show there.
But it was so silent.
Yeah, we figured it out.
Okay.
We figured it out, and we'll see everyone back tomorrow morning for another episode of IBD Live and another episode of Stock Market Today after the close.